It all began on an ordinary evening that somehow changed everything for me. I had moved to a new city only a few months ago, chasing dreams that felt bigger than my small hometown. The city was loud, bright, and full of people, yet I had never felt more alone. Every day was the same: work, silence, and the empty room that waited for me at night. Then, one day, while I was helping a guest at the hotel where I worked, I met him, Michael. He was tall, confident, and had this calm energy that made people stop and listen. His skin was deep brown, and his voice carried warmth, like someone who had seen the world but still believed in goodness. When he smiled, it wasn't the kind that asked for attention. It was the kind that made you trust him without realizing it. We spoke briefly that first day, just polite greetings, but somehow, that small conversation stayed in my mind. The next few days, he came again. Sometimes for coffee, sometimes just to talk for a few minutes. Slowly, those short talks turned into longer conversations. He told me about his hometown in Africa, about how he missed his family but loved the new life he was building. There was honesty in his words, and I found myself opening up too. I told him about my work, my loneliness, and how I sometimes felt invisible in this busy world. He listened. Really listened. That was rare. He didn't interrupt or rush to give advice, he just understood. Maybe that's why I felt safe with him so quickly. For weeks, our talks became the best part of my day. There was something peaceful about the way he carried himself, something that reminded me that kindness still existed. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the tall city buildings, Michael asked if I would join him for dinner. Just one night, he said with a soft laugh. No pressure, no expectations. I'd just like to share a meal with you. His voice was gentle but certain, and for a moment, I hesitated. I had promised myself not to get close to anyone again, not after what I had been through. But something in his eyes told me it was okay. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, wondering if I was doing the right thing. My heart was racing, not from fear, but from a strange excitement I hadn't felt in a long time. I kept telling myself it was just dinner, just two people talking. Nothing more. When I arrived at the hotel restaurant, he was already there, dressed neatly, waiting with a smile that made me forget my doubts. The lights were soft, the air carried the faint scent of flowers, and for the first time in months, I felt like I belonged somewhere. As we sat down, I realized this wasn't about romance or appearances. It was about connection, two souls finding comfort in each other's company. I didn't know what the night would bring, but I knew one thing for sure: something meaningful had begun, and I could already feel my heart slowly waking up again. The night began gently, like the calm before rain. The restaurant lights shimmered softly across the table, and for a moment, it felt as if the world had slowed down just for the two of us. Michael smiled as I sat down, and his calm presence made it easy to breathe. He spoke with warmth, asking how my day had been, and his tone carried genuine care, not just polite curiosity. As we ate, our conversation flowed naturally. He told me stories from his childhood, how he used to help his grandmother in her garden, how she taught him that kindness was the only thing that could make a person truly beautiful. I remember smiling at that, because the way he said it, it didn't sound like a line. It sounded like a memory carved deep in his heart. In return, I told him about my move to the city, how I'd left behind my comfort zone and the people I loved. He listened, his eyes steady, his silence gentle. He wasn't trying to fix my problems. He was simply there, and that was enough. Somewhere between the laughter and the pauses, the walls I had built around my heart began to fade. After dinner, we walked out onto the hotel balcony. The city stretched endlessly below, lights glowing like stars that had fallen from the sky. A cool breeze brushed against us, carrying the faint sound of music from somewhere far away. I leaned against the railing, watching cars move like tiny dots of light, and said softly, "It's strange how beautiful life looks from a distance." Michael nodded. "Sometimes we only see the beauty when we stop running," he said. His words lingered in the air, simple yet powerful. We stood there quietly for a while, letting the silence say what words couldn't. He began telling me about the first time he left home. He spoke of fear and hope, of learning to start over where no one knew his name. His honesty made me realize how human we all are, how everyone is searching for something, even if it's just peace. For a brief moment, I saw a side of him that was fragile and real. It wasn't about how strong he looked or how confident he sounded. It was about the quiet strength it takes to keep believing when life has already tested you 100 times. The night continued with more stories, more laughter, and more quiet moments that somehow felt full. When he looked at me, it wasn't in a way that made me uncomfortable. It was a look that said, "I see you." And that was something I hadn't felt in a long time. As the clock neared midnight, the world outside the balcony seemed to fall asleep. I felt peaceful, like a part of me that had been wandering had finally found a place to rest. Michael walked me to the lobby, and before we said goodbye, he smiled and said, "You remind me that goodness still exists." I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled back. The warmth in his voice followed me all the way home. That night, as I lay in bed, I kept replaying our conversations. There was no grand moment, no promises or confessions, just two people who met, shared their truths, and understood each other without needing to say much. For the first time in a long while, I fell asleep with a calm heart, unaware that this peaceful night would soon lead me toward a truth that would change everything I thought I knew about trust and love. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the window blinds, filling my room with a soft golden glow. I woke up smiling, something I hadn't done in months. The memories of last night played gently in my mind, his laughter, the stories, the peace I felt for the first time in a long while. It had been simple, yet meaningful. That I spent the day at work feeling lighter, almost as if something within me had healed without me realizing it. Every time I remembered Michael's words about kindness and courage, I felt inspired. I wanted to believe that maybe good people still existed, and maybe, just maybe, my heart was safe again. But as evening came, the calm inside me began to shift. My phone buzzed with a message from a friend who worked at another branch of the same hotel chain. She wrote, "Hey, be careful with that man you've been seeing. I heard something about him." At first, I laughed it off. It couldn't be true. Michael wasn't like that. He was honest, grounded, and kind. But curiosity got the best of me, and I asked her what she meant. Her next message came after a pause. "He's not single. He's been seeing someone for a long time. I thought you should know." The words hit me harder than I expected. I felt my heart sink, a mix of confusion and disbelief swirling inside me. I wanted to deny it, to protect the image I had built of him. But deep down, something in me knew. Maybe that's why he had never talked about his personal life in detail. Maybe there had always been a small distance I chose not to cede. I tried to stay calm and decided to talk to him directly. When I met him later that night, he looked the same, kind eyes, gentle smile, but I could feel the truth hiding behind them. "Michael," I said quietly, "is there something you haven't told me?" He looked down, then sighed deeply. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said softly. "Yes, there's someone back home. Things haven't been right between us for a long time, but she's still a part of my life." The world around me seemed to blur. I didn't shout or cry. I just stood there, hearing every word while my heart quietly broke. He continued, "You reminded me what it feels like to be understood. I know it was selfish, but I didn't want to feel alone anymore. I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't. Because somewhere in his honesty, I saw the pain of someone who was just as lost as I once was. He wasn't cruel, just human, weak in a moment that changed everything. I thought what we had was real," I whispered. "It was," he said. "But it wasn't fair to you." There was nothing left to say. I nodded, forcing a small smile, and turned to leave. As I walked away, tears blurred the city lights around me, but I kept moving. I didn't hate him. I just felt empty, like something precious had slipped through my hands. That night, I sat alone in my room, replaying every moment, every word, wondering how easily trust can turn into heartbreak. It wasn't about losing him, it was about losing the belief that kindness always comes without pain. Still, somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was just another chapter, one that would teach me how to stand again, stronger than before. Time passed quietly after that night. The days felt slower at first, as if the city had lost its color. Everywhere I went reminded me of him: the cafe where we first talked, the balcony where we watched the lights, even the quiet corners of the hotel where laughter once filled the air. But slowly, I learned that healing doesn't come all at once. It comes in moments, in the first smile after a long silence, in the first morning when the heart doesn't ache as much that I focused on my work again, on rebuilding the parts of myself that had been forgotten. I started spending more time reading, walking, and listening to music that calmed my mind. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but it began to fade with every small act of self-care. I realized that sometimes, heartbreak isn't the end, it's a beginning in disguise. One evening, a few months later, I received a message from Michael. He wrote, "I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to say I'm sorry again. You didn't deserve the way things ended." For a moment, I didn't know what to feel. The wound had healed, but seeing his name still stirred old emotions. I read his message a few times before replying simply, "I forgave you a long time ago. I just hope you find peace." There was no anger in my heart anymore. What had once been pain was now just a memory, something that had shaped me but no longer controlled me. I learned that forgiveness isn't for the one who hurt you. It's for yourself, to free your heart from the weight of what happened. As weeks went by, I began to see life differently. I understood that not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. Some come to teach you, some to test you, and some to help you rediscover who you are. Michael's presence, though painful in the end, reminded me of my strength, the ability to love, trust, and still stand tall after being broken. One evening, as I stood on the same balcony where we once talked, I watched the city lights sparkle below. They looked different now, not distant, not lonely, just beautifully alive. The wind felt softer, the noise less heavy. I smiled to myself, realizing that I no longer missed him. What I missed was the version of me who hadn't yet learned how strong she could be. I whispered quietly into the night, "Thank you for the lesson." And in that simple moment, I felt peace return to my heart. Now, when I tell this story, I don't speak with sadness. I speak with gratitude. Because that one night, the dinner, the laughter, even the heartbreak, taught me the most important truth. Love isn't about who stays, it's about who helps you grow. The video could end with a calm voiceover saying, "Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who guide us toward the best version of ourselves." Don't let betrayal make you bitter. Let it make you wiser, kinder, and stronger. The screen fades to black with soft music and the final words appear. Every ending is just the start of a new story, yours.